This is WZRD Chicago 88.3 FM. And we have with us at WZRD Jackie Paige.
Hello,
Jackie,
everyone.
hello. Jackie, could you turn up your volume just a little bit if you can?
Okay, let me see how I do that.
I think that now it sounds much better. So it's fine. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, Jackie is a uh, local political activist that addresses local Black issues and uh, and finds the issues that the political parties need to heed. So, Jackie, tell us more about your work.
Well, one of the things I do is try to advocate for inclusion for the Black voice, the grassroots voices in Chicago. I am Chicago born and bred. I've lived here all my life. The only time I left was to go to college. I went to school on the East Coast, but I did come back here and finish up at Loyola. I am a product of Chicago. A lot of people poured into my life, people who saw something in me, people who I didn't know would come up and give me things and do things for me. And I appreciated that people poured into me and they helped me to prosper and to overcome pretty difficult situations. I'm a child of the struggle. I was born in 63. So I grew up during the start of the civil rights movement when it just started to take hold. And my mother participated in the civil rights movement. She, there was a party, a political, well, it's not known as political party. It really segued into something different. But my mother was a part of the Black Panther Party. And I grew up learning about the Black Panther Party and learning about what they did in the community. And it it rubbed off on me. So as I grew up, I did what I saw done and I helped the way I saw my elders helping. So I'm a product of my environment. I do because people did for me. So when I do things in the community, it is because of the community mindset that I was brought up in. So now I'm trying to continue on and leave a legacy such as one that was left for me.
You mentioned that when people did things for you, you were struggling. And could you, are you able to describe a little bit about that? How were you struggling, and in what way were they? Did they help you so that they're influencing you now?
There were a lot of programs and resources that were available. And I was a child of a single mother who needed the help. The things they did for me, such as um, there were programs that was set in place, and my mother was one of those ones who fought for those programs for underserved. Like, for instance, even though we were poor, we were never hungry because they had lunch programs, breakfast programs, and they even had programs that let us go to camp. I was able to go to, and I love those experiences where I got outside of the violent. It was a lot of violence in my community. They were shooting. A few times our windows were shot up, and it was very traumatic to experience that sort of a violence and then try to go in school and learn. So there were a lot of programs set up. Like for instance, I went to a program that taught me took time and taught me how to read. And I excelled. One of my one of my subjects was English. And I excelled in that because I got extra attention that was paid to me. And because I excelled in English, I went on to test higher because more attention was paid to me. So then they wanted me to skip a grade because of the attention and because I was able to excel. And because people paid more attention to my needs, I was able to test high. And then there was a program where we went to camp. There was so much violence going on. I loved going to camp because it was a form of escapism for me.
Mhm.
So I want that for our kids today. I want them to experience something other than the violence that they see. I know that the violence will always be with us. I experience violence. And these kids today are experiencing violence, but those things that were there for me, they weren't there for them. I'm not seeing these things that were there for me that helped me to excel. I'm not seeing it with the kids today. And when I go and I fight, I'm fighting to get those things in place because from my personal experience, I know that those things make a difference. So when I fight for things that I'm not talking about something I heard. I'm talking about something I experienced.
Mhm.
So I want for other kids what I experienced.
Mhm. In what ways are you trying to help the kids in this way, like with the new experiences, positive experiences that could help them escape the violence?
Well, programming. I remember when we was growing up, we had the park systems, and now the park system is set up completely different than what it was set up for when I was growing up and using the parks in the 70s. In the 70s, we just went to the park. We didn't have to pay. And I remember they had gymnastics, they had tumbling, everything to engage the young mind was right there for them to use. They used to play softball, they used to play volleyball, all of that in the park.
Mhm.
The kids didn't have to go out and find something to do. Something was right there for them to do, and it was free. And when I was growing up, we had you either went to summer school or you had a summer job. And we used to go over there to the King Center on 43rd and Cottage Grove. There were long lines, and they would give us the dates, and we would go there right before the summer let out, and we would apply for those jobs. And we had jobs. The way that it's set up now, where the you go into a system and get jobs. I don't know. I All I can say is me personally, my son who has unfortunately transitioned due to violence, I applied him to the way that they set up to the portal that is supposed to help the kids to work. Not one time, I applied him several times. Not one time was he ever chosen. And unfortunately, he turned to the gangs. And then the next thing I know, I lost him at 18. And it was gun violence. So that is what triggers me. That is what drives me. I don't want other parents to have to go through this. I mean, it's painful, it's sad, and it's what motivates me. It motivates me to make a difference. It does not have to be this way. It should not be this way. And I refuse to accept that it's this way. It's this way because of corporate greed and because of politicians who don't care about us. They don't care about the people. They care about their careers. I don't like that a politician is in place. I don't like career politicians. Politics should be for the community. They're supposed to be there to do a service. And if you're there to do a service, you shouldn't think about the longevity of your position. You should be thinking about what it is you're there to do. And if you're there to serve, well, then serve in the best way possible, but don't go and try to do things to maintain your position because it's your career. I think career politicians are the problem because you're not supposed to be there to maintain that position. You're there to serve the community. And I'm adamantly against career politicians.
Hmm. Could you tell us, for the career politicians, in what ways are they using their office to maintain their position, and how is this preventing the services from getting to the people?
Well, I mean, look at what's going on now, where there is a disconnect in what the community wants and the way that our politicians are voting. Our politicians aren't voting our needs and our wants. They are voting according to the lobbyist. The lobbyists are dictating what goes on in our community. And what we say does not matter, even though we're the ones that vote. We don't have the power. That's why that's why I got myself involved in Recall this fall. That's an initiative to give power back to the people and away from the lobbyists. That Recall this fall is an initiative for the people to recall anyone who sits in the office of mayor. It has nothing to do with a particular personal politician. Anyone, it could be anyone. As a matter of fact, by the time recall this fall comes into fruition, the current mayor won't even, excuse me, probably won't be in office by the time the process gets done. So recall this fall has nothing to do with the current mayor. It has something to do with the process of having a recall mechanism for anyone who sits in the office. I believe in empowerment of the people.
What is the initiative? Are you is it do you have to get petition signatures to get it on the ballot, or binding, non-binding? How could you describe more about the Recall the Fall initiative?
Yeah, that's definitely is we have to get about 50,000 signatures
Mhm.
in order to circumvent the mechanisms and the policies and the political gamesmanship that go on the municipal level. The community went down and did it the way that it's supposed to be done. We went and petitioned our aldermen to put the initiative on the ballot. And because these aldermen are trying to keep their positions, they went with what the party wanted. The party didn't want a recall mechanism because the mayor is a tool for special interest.
Mhm.
Wants to be able to dictate their rules and policies, such as what's going on right now with the teachers union. The teachers union paid for the mayor to get in office, so they want the mayor to approve a budget that is bloated, but it is things that they want. So because it's things that they want to make for sure that their mayor stays in office. If the people take out their mayor, then that thing that they want won't go forward. But if the people are in power, then they have a mechanism in which they can get the things that I spoke about, like the the programs in the park, the programs in the schooling that helps people who may need help in reading, the well, actually, the feeding of the kids, that still goes on right now. But there's a lot of other programs that people don't even know about because of political gamesmanship. There's too much political gamesmanship, and too many of our constituents are hurting, and they're not taking advantage of benefits because the benefits, people who are in power play keep away. Only those who are connected to political individuals get to take advantage of political services. I mean, community services, things that are supposed to go to the community. Only those that are connected to certain political entities know about these things. Everybody doesn't know. These are things that are supposed to be available to everyone, but only a few people know about them.
Could you give us some examples of these uh, resources?
Contracts. When you hear about, as by a matter of fact, I actually went to a forum um, about immigrants, and there are so many programs available that's supposed to be available for everyone, but they only told the immigrants. So how is it that these are public dollars that only a certain portion of the society, of the public, of the citizenry knows about? If this is a public service, the entirety of the community should know about it. If you don't do outreach to the entirety of the community, well, then that's special interest.
Mhm. So did
There's
you?
a lot going on with the immigration community. They are using communities, they're using public dollars. They're using public dollars for just this little sector, and that is not right. The taxpayers don't even get the same treatment that this small little sector is getting. And they're not even citizens. They're not taxpayers. That's not right.
So for those for these services and these resources, are you now, since you know about them, are you able to get the word out to the community? Would people of color that
Yeah,
are
you know what?
citizens be able to access the services or still
But
no?
here's the thing. Here's the thing. The services that I know about, yes. I tell everyone, I share with everyone, I do not hoard resources. I don't believe in hoarding resources. I believe that most of our problem is the hoarding of resources. The rich are keeping all of the money amongst themselves and not sharing with everyone else. And they're creating this problem by hoarding wealth and hoarding resources. So when I hear about them, am I able to share? Yes, but that's the problem. We have to know about it to share it.
Mhm,
We don't know about it. Many times we find out about things the last day to apply.
mhm.
That's when they'll put it out with the news agencies and say today is the last day, apply today. These
Could you give us
programs,
an example? Because I think I've seen that before too, but what it was, it slips my mind.
there's so many. Many times, great. Okay, you asked me to be specific, a specific program that that they didn't tell us about, and there are so many. Let me try and zero in on a particular specific one. I wish,
What about that the guaranteed income? Because I heard that at yeah, at one point they there was still a lot of money left over from COVID, and then they said that they have to spend it by the end of the month, and it was almost near the end of the month. Was that one of the examples?
yeah, that COVID, um, Yeah, that was one of the examples, but the well, you see, one of the reasons I don't want to, there was an example, but the example that I can think of was something that is very specialized. There was a program at the Housing Authority, and
Mm,
it was a program that was supposed to help people who had legal services, and it was called who needed legal services for their businesses. And it was a pilot program. It was a
mm,
pilot program that was set up to help a person or people who were connected with who were of use to the CEO. Now, this program was not advertised. Only certain people knew about this program, and only certain people could take advantage of this program. But it was public dollars that was spent for this program. And they do it all the time. There's a place called Access Tennis on 55th and State. They spent public dollars on that program, and that program was supposed to be open to the public. But when the public goes to there, they're told about a membership fee. They
mm,
use public housing dollars to build this facility. And they were supposed to open that facility up to the community. When the community went to that facility, they were told about a fee they have to pay, even though they use public dollars to make, and that's not them, that's how they do it a lot. They do that a lot. They did it with a program for STEM that was given to a church. It's a black church. Um, the Housing Authority. The Housing Authority does this a lot. They help organizations to build up and to scale up with public monies. And then these organizations conduct themselves like a private entity, even though they use public dollars. Right here next to me, the on the side of DuSable, not DuSable, Dunbar High School, there they have a union. That union was built with public housing money, and they were supposed to give a certain amount of those positions to public housing and just to the public. Now, that I mean, when I say positions, I mean they were supposed to mentor students.
mm,
Now, if students are being mentored, I don't know. No one knows. I went to the meetings when they were giving the money, but as far as giving the money back out to the community, there is no accountability. No one knows if they actually followed through with their obligations for this money. All they do is go and get public money and use it and use public monies to scale themselves up, but they don't allow the public to benefit from things that the public is supposed to benefit from. And the public doesn't know.
mm. What is your strategy for addressing this? We've seen this before as well. How could you address it so that the money gets to the community?
Community involvement.
Mm,
There needs to be community involvement and not a community involvement where people are appointed, because those who are appointed are beholden to those who appoint them. Whenever public monies are being spent, someone from the public who who is elected should be on an oversight committee. I don't believe there is enough accountability. We are trying to get more accountability in government. And when I mean accountability, I mean from the people and of the people, not appointed.
Mhm. So for your Recall the Fall initiative, tell us, is it going to be on the ballot? Are you still getting signatures?
Yeah, we did have to pivot. We had to pivot because there's a lot going on right now with the immigrant thing. And then because we're trying to put in a president, that that initiative was overshadowing Recall this fall. So because Recall this fall is an evergreen initiative, meaning it doesn't have an expiration date,
Mhm.
we decided it's still going on, but we decided to get out of the fray because and we're still collecting signatures. We're still asking for volunteers. But because of all the other things that's going on, we decided to pull back and let the traffic lighten up a little bit.
Mhm.
So that's what's going on.
So are you still trying to get it on the November ballot then?
Yes. Oh, November, no,
Oh.
because of that's what I'm saying. The traffic was heavy. And we had a lot of people who misunderstood, and we're doing it. We're getting together and doing an awareness campaign because misinformation was out, a lot of confusion. That's why I mentioned at the start of Recall this fall that this was about the office and not a person. A lot of people were feeling sorry for Brandon, which is ridiculous. He's doing a horrible job. But they were feeling sorry for Brandon and they didn't want to sign the initiative because they felt like we were picking on Brandon, which is ridiculous. But but because they were confusing the initiative with a personal attack on Brandon, that's kind of misinformation as well. Because Recall this fall isn't about one person, it's about the office. And no matter how many times we talked about that, they just kept getting it confused.
Is it about the city of Chicago mayoral office, or is it about the all public offices that are held that Recall this fall?
Pardon me?
Is the Recall this fall initiative only about the
Oh,
mayoral
oh.
office, or is it for all elected official offices if they do not perform their jobs? And I'm assuming is that is it is it required? Would it if it were to pass? Would uh, voters have the opportunity to recall the elected person?
Oh, okay. Initially, see, Recall this fall isn't, well, the concept isn't new. They tried to get something on the ballot before, but they called it the Laquan McDonald bill.
Mm.
Um, but the thing about that is when they tried it before, you're right. It was the mayor's office, the aldermanic office, and the state's attorney's office.
Mm.
What Dan Bolin, who is the one that put this all together, what he did was he retooled it and he fine-tuned it to deal just with the mayor's office. So we call this fall, as it now stands, deals only with the mayor's office. It does not deal with the aldermanic office, and it does not deal with the state's attorney's office as the initiative was before.
Mm. And the signatures that you are collecting now, are they signatures for volunteers? Because I think that if you get signatures now for the initiative, they wouldn't count if you're not going to be putting them on the November ballot, not the initiative on the November ballot.
Oh, see, okay, okay. That's what evergreen mean. Evergreen means even if we the signatures that we are collecting right now will still count for later.
Hmm. Uh, how is it? I never heard of an evergreen initiative before.
Evergreen means there's no expiration date
Mm.
on the signatures.
Oh, okay. And these signatures are the ones that are required to put the initiative on a ballot, right?
These signatures are to put the initiative on the ballot for the recall of the office of mayor.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Recall this fall deals with getting now as far as when. It's because I was telling you about the traffic and
Mhm.
because of people being confused about what we're doing. Many people thought that we were attacking the mayor, the particular Brandon Johnson. Some people signed it because they thought that it was to take out Brandon Johnson, and I had to um explain to them that Brandon Johnson was not the focus of recall this fall.
Mhm.
Brandon Johnson, it just happens to be the person who is in office now. Mind you, if it had gotten on ballot this fall, there could have been a possibility that Brandon would have been affected. But if we're going to be honest, by the time Brandon's initiative, by the time we would have gotten signatures, he would have already been up for reelection because the signatures we're collecting right now is just to get the initiative on the ballot. We would have had to do the signature collection again to get him off the ballot. By the time all of that would have played out, he is up for election again anyway.
Mhm.
So that is what I was trying to get people to understand. This isn't about Brandon because by the time we started the process, he would have already been either dumped from office or put back in. But if he would have been put back in, yeah, it would have been affecting him.
Mhm. Uh, so when you're talking about these signatures, are you able to park these signatures and have them still count? I never heard of
Parks,
evergreen initiative. Usually, you have to have 90 days to get your signatures before the initiative gets on the ballot.
well, we that is not the case with Evergreen.
Mm.
Evergreen is done differently. You can park and use those signatures.
Uh-huh.
The signatures don't have an expiration date.
And is this for the Chicago Board of Elections or Cook County? For Chicago, right? Since it's for the mayor?
This is for Chicago.
Oh, oh, okay.
But Chicago and Cook County Board of Election do have reciprocity. Oh, you're trying to say what is the jurisdiction of you know, I think it may be, I don't want to misquote you.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't want to say something that's not correct.
I think maybe I'm just wondering if the signatures are if the initiative has to be filed with the Cook County Board of Election or the City of
Oh,
Chicago
that's what
Board
you're
of
saying.
Election. Mm.
On our petition, it says Cook County.
Ah, uh-huh. Okay.
Do you, I can send, if you
Yeah,
have
please.
questions, I can send you things. And also, there is the website,
Okay.
recallthisfall.com.
Okay. We'll put that the website later on the description for this interview. And were there any other evergreen initiatives before that that got on the ballot? If you have any examples, so that at least we have a reference place, because I never heard of evergreen initiatives before.
Oh, you never, you know what? I will send you information on it if you like.
Please.
To tell you the truth, in my connections and working with Dan Bolin, that's how I found I did not know about it until I started working with Dan on this Recall This Fall initiative. And Dan has a legal team that is working with him. And that legal, I mean, I didn't know about this.
Mhm.
So, and all my getting, it says in all you're getting, get understanding. This is something that is a very useful tool. So, and it's something that I put in my back pocket when I found out about it.
Mhm. Those resources that the people in elected office try to hide from the public and only use for their own benefit. Has there ever been an investigation about that practice? It doesn't sound as if they're acting uh, upholding their office because there is the requirement that there is a public notice of any resource that they're providing.
See, and this is kind of why I advocate the way I do, because you are correct. They're supposed to, but the people in power, I'll just put it like this. Lady Justice isn't blind. She's peeking out one eye. Things that are supposed to be done isn't done. You have corrupt judges. I mean, Chicago has its own special prosecutor for a reason. I mean, look at all of our politicians that are getting corrupt, I mean, that are getting prosecuted. We have most of the machine politicians, and the only thing that are under investigation and that are getting prosecuted. My only problem is we are substituting one crook for another. They're not stopping the bad behavior. They're replacing who's doing the bad behavior. And they're not cleaning anything up. They're just saying, it's my turn now to be crooked. And that's the problem. We have no integrity and no truth and no honesty. And once we get back to that, then things will get rolling. And that is what I want. I want truth and I want common sense, truthful, virtuous, righteous government. I want it to be, I want you to stand on what you're standing. If this is truth and the American way, let's emphasize truth more. Let's put a moratorium on stealing. And we get that not just on the governmental, on a municipal, or on the side of government, we also get that on the side of advocacy. We have a lot of advocates that do the same thing. So I'm just asking that people have some kind of integrity. And that's what I'm looking for people with integrity. That's the crowd. I'm trying to find my crowd. I'm trying to find integrity people.
How difficult is it to find people with integrity?
Very difficult because they start out saying they're for the people. When we went down, I was a part of the group that went down to ask that our resources be be directed toward our constituents. I was with some people who said that they wanted that also. But then the next thing you know, what happens is you get people who say they are community minded, but they get given contracts. So they will go in the place of the community and they're silent when things are done against the community. I mean, all these people that were doing all of this talk and they, it was all fluff and no substance. When you see this, it's disheartening.
So, are you saying that what happened was that there were community activists, but once those activists got some contracts, then they shut up?
That's it. Yeah, And you can always tell who's on the take by who becomes silent. You know, they're always out and rah, rah, rah. And then all of a sudden, you don't hear anything from them. Why? Because they're eating. They're eating from Jezebel's table. You see a lot. They're very vocal, and then you don't see them anymore. And you know when you see them again, when they're hungry, when they're finished eating that piece of cake that Jezebel gave them, and they're hungry again. When they're hungry again, then they're right back out there picketing and politicking and doing all of this so they can get another contract. And then once they get a contract, they silent again. They're not out there doing things. And as by a matter of fact, they will tell the community, be quiet. We not on that yet. We not gonna picket this right now. We'll do that later. You know, they're placating and they're pretending that they're for the people, but they're not for the people. They want the people to be quiet. Why? Because they've been bought out and they've been paid to tell the community to be quiet.
Mhm. So right now we're discussing resources that are being withheld from the people and that the elected officials are being that are giving those resources to their chosen few, their close associates. What else are the what is happening besides resources? Is there anything else? That's a major part because resources are the lifeblood of a community. Is there anything else that the elected
Well,
officials are doing that uh, that
I don't
is
like how they tell us that this is a process and that we have to work the process and this is just the way even though it's wrong, we're being told I'm just one person. No one is ready, is willing to be a lost leader. There was one politician, an alderman, who said, I'm just going to work this position for 1 year. I forget his name. I think the gentleman was of Asian descent, Indian Asian. Um, he worked his position for 1 year and he wasn't a paid and bought out position politician. Anytime I go to and I talk to any of our black aldermen, they always tell you about we don't have the numbers. I mean, when you look at Jeanette Taylor, she started out on fire. She was the people's spokesperson. She was a community activist. And now she's doing all she can to stay a politician. She won't speak out on community initiatives because she won't get funding. She's not supposed to be worried about getting back in office. She's supposed to be worried about voting the way that we need her to vote. But yet and still, she's worried about she won't get the union money. She won't get all these special interest money. And she's not the only one. All of them are like that.
can you tell us in what way would the union also want to keep the resources from the people?
Well, okay. An interesting way the union is just really crazy to me. The immigration thing. The what's that the ones that wanted to what was that? They were fighting for one fair wage.
Uh,
One fair wage. It started out as grassroots for the people. They came up from the dirt and all of this other kind of stuff. Then the next thing you know, they stood against the community when the community was asking for their resources not to be taken away. And what happened is it was you scratch my back, I scratch yours. So since the special interests work to get the wages increase, then one fair wage had to work with the unions because the unions work with them. You know, it's a thing of reciprocity. They all get together and they back each other's play, even if it's against the community.
Mhm.
They may be pro community, but somebody who they work with is trying to push their initiative. So, and because they help them, the unions help them, even if what the union is asking to do is anti-community, because the union helped them, they then have to help the union.
Mhm.
So they will help the union even if it's in even if it's not in the best interest of the community because the union helped them. That's
Mhm.
how it works.
Are you able to give us an example of how the union
I just
uh,
one fair wage worked with the union helped them,
mhm.
and they worked with what's that um oh, there was a lot of groups on the north one what was the groups on the north side? Gosh,
One north side?
yes, one north side.
Mhm.
All of them got together and the homeless coalition for the homeless.
Mhm.
They all formed um an agreement with each other to help each other.
Mhm.
So when they was trying to push the tax on the rich, when they was trying to push that when to supposedly help homeless, all of them worked together to push that. And that wasn't really something that was for, in my opinion, the homeless. That was more something that was for funding the illegal immigrants because they counted the illegal immigrants in the point in time count. So when they captured them in the point in time count, they became part of the homeless.
Are you talking about the Bring Chicago Home initiative?
Yes, yes, thank you. Thank you. The Bring Chicago Home Initiative, that was one. They all got together, all those groups got together and worked together with each other to bring that. And that wasn't about a community initiative. That was about an agreement that those people did with each other. One Fair Wage worked with One North Side. All of them worked together. And One North Side helped One Fair Wage. When One Fair Wage wanted to picket and show awareness, all of them, all these different groups showed up to show that they have the numbers. They all
Mhm.
show up at each other's rallies.
Mhm.
That's and to bring awareness and to show that they have a large contingency. These aren't all people that are like, for instance, those weren't all homeless people. Those were union people. Those were housing people, and those people weren't necessarily involved in that initiative, but they did it to help their sister agencies out.
Mhm. Mhm.
That's
They're
how they work.
mhm. Like their fellow nonprofits
Yeah,
helping them.
fellow nonprofits work together to help each other.
Mhm.
And that initiative did nothing necessarily for them. They could say that they have people within each sector, but that's not really what their mission was. Housing is about housing, but yet and still here they are helping the One Fair Way. They may, in a roundabout way, have have some ties, but housing is about housing, and it's not about wages.
Mhm.
but yet housing and wages work together so that they can both booster their numbers.
Mhm.
And that's how they work. They work and they form coalitions. And
Mhm.
that's fine, but the coalitions give a false narrative. These weren't housing people, these were union people. Or
Mhm.
these weren't union people, these are housing people.
And what was their end goal versus the community interests?
I would rather the community be out there stating their interests rather than a union initiative be out there stating the community interests. That's the thing. You don't have the end user. They will go and get a few token voices, but the masses of people that's out there, that's not what's out there. What I'm saying is have the majority of the people that's out there be the community, not these paid operatives.
Well, Jackie Norman, uh, I mean, sorry, Jackie Page. I am so sorry that we are out of time.
Okay.
I think that we still need to speak further and send if our listeners want to learn more about your work, how where should they go?
Well, I am, it's so interesting. I actually am a housing advocate, but housing sits within communities.
Mhm.
And my organization is National Housing Residents Association, and we're very much so grassroots. We do have a page and we do have a website, NHRA for you.org.
Mhm.
But I'm more readily available on Facebook.
Okay. And Facebook, could you spell
At
for me?
NHRA, just type in NHRA,
Mhm.
National Housing Residents Association at Facebook.
Okay. All right. Jackie, thank you so much for joining us on WZRD Chicago 88.3 FM today. Thank you all for
All
all
right.
the information.
Thanks for having me.